Welcome to Michigan Reimagined, presented by T.A. Forsberg and Wagoner Financial. And here's your host, Chris Buck.
So we all know that the coronavirus pandemic has disrupted our lives in countless ways, but imagine if your job, your mission, was to sell and orchestrate conventions and tourism for your region. How the heck do you navigate through that? And how do you find a new gear now that things are pretty much back to a new normal? Here to discuss the work of the organization formerly known as the Greater Lansing Convention and Visitors Bureau is its president and CEO, Julie Pinkston. Welcome back to the show, Julie.
Oh, so glad to be here. Thank you.
Yep. So, you know, the prior name of Convention and Visitors Bureau seems to be pretty self-explanatory, but can you kind of share a little bit about your organization's mission? What is your day-to-day goal?
So our day-to-day goal mission is to really improve the quality of life for this region by promoting tourism and bringing people to the community and spending their money and then
Right.
going back home. And so we really are intentional on how do we best, as an organization, represent this community to the outside world. And so we do a lot of marketing, we do a lot of direct sales for bringing meetings, conventions, and amateur sporting events here. So that's really the crux of what we do, that sales and marketing for this destination. There's no better job.
Right on. Good for you. Remind us when you got this particular titled job.
Yes. So you already brought up the pandemic, but I've been with the organization 31 years. So I have made my way up through the organization. We're a smaller organization, but there were still good opportunities. And so I started on March 11th of 2020. So the next 2 weeks I shut down our entire travel and tourism industry here. And obviously throughout the world, the same thing was happening. So it was, I have a great quote that came out of that a crisis doesn't make who you are, it reveals who you are. So we were really able to, use the connections and the good, I don't want to say will, but just we're a really strong organization, and people gravitated to us and looked to us during that time to how can we promote local businesses within the community instead of outside of the community.
Right on.
And that was a shift.
Right. And for listeners who want to hear more about that harrowing time, you just archive an older episode from a couple of years ago where we chatted about your onboarding and how you were at that time navigating the depths of hell.
Right. I don't think I'll revisit that one.
Right.
Sorry. But
No, that's okay. So if anyone wants to hear those gritty details, you'll need to listen to a different episode, because now we're all about positivity and offense and forward thinking and all of that. So, how do you measure the performance of your work? What metrics do you use to decide whether you're meeting your goals or exceeding them? How does that work?
That's a great question. So many of the goals that we have end up being intangibles. Like, were people happy when they came here? And how do you measure that? Did they enjoy their experience? Did they find a new experience? We have done research and surveying over every few years, and we find that it's very interesting to me that people's perceptions change once they get here, like by 60%.
Wow. Okay.
They change for the better. And I think, a lot of that has to do with being the state capital, because so much of the attention about Lansing is up there in Lansing, but they mean the capital. They mean the legislature.
Yep.
They mean that work that maybe they don't agree with. So some guest satisfaction is something we look very closely at.
Fascinating.
But we have some really strong indicators of growth and performance of our industry through hotel occupancy data and the rate that's charged and how that ebbs and flows throughout different seasons of the year. Obviously, when the students come back to Michigan State University, that's a big time for us in terms of occupancy for our hotels. But it does, November and December does tend to, throughout the industry, everyone's in holiday mode. And so not traveling, or if you are traveling, you're staying at grandma's house. So which is a big market for us of people visiting their friends and family here.
Sure.
So the one measurement that is the hotel occupancy, in 2019, it was about 61%. And it is now, year to date, 56.2. There we go. I knew I was wrong.
No, that's all right.
So we're moving along. We're a destination that's had slow and steady growth. So a lot of destinations, especially in the South, or that are more beach and woods centric, they had some quick growth and they bounced back real fast. Us being intent on meetings and conventions and bringing people together for events, not solo activity as much, we've been slower, but it's been very steady. So I feel good about where we're at. At 56.2, we added hotels into the market.
I was going to ask about that, right? So you're obviously you have more beds, so it's harder to hit a percentage. But clearly, the developers believe that those beds are needed. So
they definitely were. When we were in the 2018-19 timeframe, we were definitely selling very strong. So when you're over 60%, that is the very key indicator for hotel developers to start eyeing that market and putting things in place. So we had 2 hotels open in 2021, and that added about 300 rooms to the inventory.
Okay.
Those were already in motion before the pandemic, obviously. One was our downtown hotel, the Courtyard, and that was the second hotel in downtown Lansing, so it was definitely a need throughout the community. The other was a hotel in East Lansing, so we had those underway, and then we've got 2 others that opened just a couple of weeks ago between Lansing and East Lansing, and so that added another 194 to the market. So that's, now we've got 500 more rooms than we had prior to the pandemic. And so at 56.2% occupancy, I feel like even, the end game has shifted further down the road with those extra rooms in the market.
Now, I would imagine some events are natural and you're not the benefactor of it, but, Michigan State home game or Parents Weekend or, maybe events that are happening at the Capitol or whatever. But there are a lot of circumstances where you're kind of competing for, right? Do you get like, hey, we've got this, girls softball semifinals, and we're looking at a bunch of different cities, kind of show us what Lansing's value proposition is, and you either win or lose that bid. I don't know if that's the phrase you use for that, but that is a big part of your world, right?
That's what we do every day.
Right. Okay.
Yes. We have RFPs, bids, all that's in our world. We have a team that specifically goes out nationally and statewide to sell our destination for meetings and conventions.
Okay.
We have another team with our Lansing Sports Commission that is part of us, and they are doing the same thing to bring amateur sporting events. So we have had, very good success with the state association market. We are the headquarters for many state associations in Michigan. So we have a lot of those groups that want to come here because we're 90 miles from 90% of the state's population. So we're a very easy destination for that whole statewide group to come together and convene and have a good opportunity to connect while they're doing their work. And so that's been good. State government has always been a strong market for us. During the pandemic, kind of right out of the pandemic, it was amateur sports, though, that really set the tone.
Right.
And we are working with a lot of local voices right now to try to enhance our offerings of sports facilities. So we lost one during the pandemic, the Summit.
Right, yep.
So that was a big loss. That was for the business that we book as an organization. That was 28% of what we booked in that facility. So we have been very creative, and our team has looked at the former Sam's Club on the south side, and it's now being hosted for some soccer indoor type events, and there's been some martial arts in there. So we will find the location, and we know that people want to come here because they're going to a location like that to compete. So there's a lot of conversation in the community right now about the future sports facility development that could be, and we have a number of studies. We have done a lot of work to put that together. So our team not only is out there trying to bring those businesses back, or that business here, but also to have places and do that destination development, to have places for us to sell. And so the more that we have, the better that it is for the community. So if anybody would like to put together a big sports facility, we have all the information you might need.
Well, that's great to know, and we can bang that drum with the podcast. I will share this with all of my developer friends. I'm going to give a quick nod to one of our sponsors. When it comes to managing your finances and planning for your future, I suggest you contact my friends at Wagoner Financial. Whether you're just getting started, getting ready to retire, or anywhere in between, Wagoner Financial can help you make smart financial decisions. Don't navigate complex problems on your own. Wagoner has the expertise to help you feel confident that you're making the right financial choices. Contact an advisor by calling 517-853-3367 or visit their website at wagoner-financial.com. So you've got the studies. We've got some empty big box stuff. We've got fields. We've got areas that can be developed. Is that kind of an overt effort to try to court a developer or a benefactor to come in and build more facilities because of the information you have?
Right, that we have been on that path. We have, in the past, typically our organization has waited for what arrived here, and then we got to promote it. So
Right.
now we
Yep.
want to have a voice in what is necessary for this community that we can sell, that we can use to bring people here. So we have done 3 studies now, and we have each one was incrementally getting more and more information, getting into the weeds of exactly the economic value and the economic benefit that it would bring to our community. So we have just wrapped up a lot of that data. The next phase is to start courting. So we're in that's new territory for us,
Right,
but we're
right.
listening to all the voices, talking to as many people who want to give us advice as possible.
Sure.
We can't build, we can't own, but we can help foster some kind of relationship that brings that forward.
And, one of the things I think that makes me really proud of Mid-Michigan, as a smaller market, even within our own state, is the power of our chamber. You've got Leap, Bob and his team. I mean, so you do.
We've
hopefully
definitely connected with Leap a few
Right.
times, and then they know the great opportunities for developers to find some tools that could maybe make things easier in land development or finding the right spaces. So we have definitely connected with them. Most recently, I think last week.
So talk a little bit about, we haven't buried the lead yet with our conversation about the Greater Lansing Convention and Visitors Bureau, the mouthful that used to be your name.
So many words.
Yes.
Many words.
So-
I've lost your attention by the time I've been introduced.
Right. That's exactly right. It is a bit of a mouthful. I mean, CVB is kind of an industry standard, I guess, but coming out of the pandemic, reinventing yourself, I'm really proud. And I didn't know that was happening until I saw the unveiling, and I love it. Talk a little bit about the project, talk about the new brand. How did that all manifest itself?
So we are now Choose Lansing, as we said at the upfront, and we spent a year in the process to become that as our new name, our brand, our tagline. And it was very intentionally done with a firm that this is their expertise is branding destinations. And so we started with a lot of research, talked to a lot of stakeholders, including our clients, visitors, stakeholders, members, everybody that we could connect with, got a voice at the table. So the planning then got into the creative side, and that's where it starts to get tricky because there's so many good ideas and so much good looks at, but what captures our destination? What shows the outside world who we are and what we represent? So we came up with the group of Choose Lansing, because when you come here, you do make a choice. You're coming to a convention, you're coming to a meeting, you're coming to a sporting event, you're coming to Wharton Center, you're making that choice to come here because we do have a pass-through kind of thing being in the middle of Michigan, but people are intentionally choosing and making plans here. And that's what we help with, is we help plan, and that's our organization's role, is to facilitate all of the things that happen here in terms of visitors and conventions and meetings. So how can we capture that in a name? And so I feel that Choose Lansing just really gravitated. Our vice president of marketing and I, when 2 nights before it launched, we did not sleep. We were very nervous about just what this was impactful. We had our old name since we organized 60 years ago, and our logo and imagery was 20 years old, and it showed. It was dated and old, but it was time. This was when I became CEO, one of my first priorities, but obviously I had to step aside with that thought for a little bit. But
Right.
So here we are now, and the next day when it launched, we kept waiting. I texted her and I said, do you have anybody commenting negatively? Is there anybody saying we did the wrong things? And there really wasn't. And we
Sure.
had put it out there softly a little bit to not surprise certain people. Because when you say Choose Lansing, we know that we mean Greater Lansing. So the tagline that we selected was plan on something greater. And so greater does represent Mid-Michigan
Yep.
and the entire community. So we're not saying don't go to DeWitt. We're saying
Right.
you are part of this Lansing package that we're offering to the outside world.
Yep.
And so I think most people got that and understood that that's what we do.
That is forward thinking and makes a lot of sense, right? Because if you're East Lansing, or if you're Mason, or you're Okemos, or you're Grand Ledge, or whatever, you could take pause at that. But at the end of the day, it is one organism.
Right.
People in Detroit or Grand Rapids or wherever, if the soccer game is in DeWitt, they're going to Lansing.
Right.
Just like I don't say I'm going to Kentwood. I'm going to Grand Rapids.
That's definitely my
it's
example.
Up in Sparta, right?
That's my example. Exactly. I
No, it
say,
makes a lot of sense.
we're going to go out to dinner in DeWitt, but I'm driving to go to Wharton Center, and well, I'm just going to Lansing. I'm going to that whole area. It's
Right.
what we represent. And so that was great. And so we didn't hear any negative comments. So the next day was the first Spartan home football game where we threw the logo on the ribbon boards
Okay.
to promote the new look. So we thought, well, go big or go home. 75,000 people will definitely tell us what they think. So, and everybody was very, very favorable and
Right.
positive. And I've had people wanting to buy our logo and put it on merchandise. Like, we've never had that before. So
Wow, there you
it's
go.
a nice way. I love how people are gravitating to it.
That's great. And then you mentioned partnerships with Sports Authority, right? So did they get a rebrand too?
So the Greater Lansing Sports Authority became the Lansing Sports Commission.
Okay.
We did that research as well, understanding that in the marketplace, Sports Commission really is that driving name that sports rights holders look for when they're planning in a destination. So we started out as the Sports Authority, knowing that that was something that kept us separate from the CVB, but the Sports Commission really is the industry standard. So we moved to that with the same kind of look with Choose Lansing's organizational name. So it was a natural transition, and no one has given any pause to that either. So we feel that that's a good, strong name for us in the marketplace to really promote sports here.
Got it. Okay. And I also have been reading in the news that we've got the Lansing Center, our local convention center, has pulled together a bunch of funds and is going to do a pretty significant upgrade. Can you talk about how that works and what your partnership is with them and why that might be a good thing?
Certainly. So we do partner with the convention center. It is our biggest facility to sell. And speaking of sports, we have had a lot more sporting events take place in that building because of our intentionality of putting wrestling and different cheer competitions. And we had the National Horseshoe Pitchers Association this month in July, or this year in July. So we had a lot of different sporting events now can take place there. But they are receiving some funds through the state of Michigan budget processing, and they're going to be able to first and foremost update some of the security features, which have just become something that's not sexy to put money to. And then they'll also be doing some cosmetic improvements as well. It'll definitely freshen up some of the things that we know can't hold everything together unless there's some funds added. So this is going to be a nice way to elevate the building and have it get some fresh energy.
Got it. What else is going on with Choose Lansing? What have I missed?
Well, I want to talk about a really important program in travel, and we have been a leader in it, and it is accessibility. And that is something that we have been intentional about for probably the last 6 years. So much so we spent a lot of time doing work related to being a location that people could travel to if they were on the autism spectrum. So we started by creating programs. All of our attractions have some kind of sensory inclusive or friendly program. So you could go in special hours or a special time or a special event just for people that have needs that maybe aren't something that is always the mainstream. And so we did that for the last 6 years, and we wanted to continue to be fully accessible in terms of what we offered as a destination. So we're now getting into the mobility, those with low vision and blindness, those with low hearing and deafness. So how do we make accommodations or information available to people traveling here?
Right.
So we just launched on our website an accessibility page about 2 weeks ago, and it really does inventory everything that every attraction, hotel, many restaurants, what they offer. So it's not what they don't have, but it's what they do have, so that you can plan your trip, you can find information.
Right.
And so we've been really intentional on having that goal of being welcoming to all. And so we've come to some national recognition as well. We're one of the top 3 destinations for those traveling on the autism spectrum, along with Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and Mesa, Arizona. So
how about that?
It's pretty amazing that we were recognized that way. And it's really, we're not doing things that are totally different than anybody else, but we're just promoting it and making it welcoming and putting it all together for a traveler to find information and experience our community in a new way. So that has been very, I don't even know the right word. It's just been amazing to see it all come together.
Right.
We've trained over 1,000 people in the community to better understand how to welcome guests that might have different issues in their lifestyle than they do. understanding invisible disabilities, understanding things that,
Right.
travelers come to, and you don't know anything that what they've gone through to get to you. So how can you make their experience better?
Fascinating.
Yeah.
That's something I didn't know. I'm really glad that you shared that. That means a lot.
It does to me as well.
Right on. So how can listeners learn more about Choose Lansing as we wrap up?
Well, we have our website, of course, lansing.org. It's very easy to find,
Yes,
very
it
easy
is.
to
How about
remember.
that? Way to go.
We've had that a long time. That has all of our, certainly all of our information for visitors, but we find even Michigan residents or Lansing residents find all kinds of information that helps them as well. So encourage anybody to look on there. Our calendar of events always shows the different activities happening. That's our most visited section of the website.
Okay, yeah.
And then we're on all the socials with Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok and Pinterest. So
Look at you.
TikTok is the one where we're like, still, how do you represent a destination and what there's to see and do and experience on TikTok? So
Right on.
we're having good consultants work with us on some of that.
Well, you're doing a hero's work. I'm just so proud to have you in here. We have been talking with the president and CEO of Choose Lansing, Ms. Julie Pinkston. Thank you so much for coming. Everyone take a look at lansing.org and get involved. It's a great place to be.